When the people closest to you, who are supposed to look after your well-being and growth, become the reason for your frightful nightmares, who do you even trust in that case? It's often said that when a crime is too complicated, you must look into the simplest of details which are most likely to be missed as the investigations begin. But when the detectives go back from where they started, some shocking discoveries often emerge. Today, we look into two such shocking crimes which will make you realize the fact that which is the most complicated is the simplest of all.
There is another breaking story right now.
Just before 11 Tuesday night, Durham police are called to this Farron Drive home.
After responding to a call from the victim's husband, Raven Abaroa.
When they arrived, they find 25-year-old Janet Abaroa murdered. Police aren't saying how she was killed.
Number 1. This is the case of 25-year-old Janet Abaroa, who was discovered dead in her North Carolina home, and her family suspected her husband's involvement. For the lack of direct evidence, the case goes cold for years, leaving Janet's family without closure and potentially putting another woman in danger. The question in the minds of authority was, where was her contact lenses? On April 26, 2005, Raven Abaroa, 28, reported to police that he had come home at 10 p.m. to find his wife, Janet Abaroa, dead. "She's been shot by something. There's blood everywhere," he said on the 911 call. He had returned from a game of soccer that evening.
Where is your emergency? My wife is dead! She's shot and there's blood everywhere. Shot? Yes. Okay, you're going to have to calm down. How old is your wife? She's 25. I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Can you tell how many times your wife has been shot? Like, right in the chest.
As the police turned up to the scene, they saw Janet lying dead on the bed. She had stab wounds on her body, and their 6-month-old son was safe and unaware in the next room. Raven told the police that when he left, his wife was in bed watching TV. The couple, who were both raised in the Church of Latter-day Saint, had spent time together before the game with a friend. Janet's body was immediately sent for an autopsy, which revealed that she had been stabbed multiple times, not shot, and it showed that she was pregnant with Raven's second child. Janet was the 7th of 10 siblings. She grew up in a Mormon family. She met Raven Abaroa, who was also a Mormon, in 1998 at Southern Virginia University, where she played soccer as well. He was a fellow soccer player who instantly swept her off her feet. In August 2000, after 2 years together, Janet and Raven Abaroa married at the Mormon Temple in Washington, D.C. They settled in southeastern Virginia. Her friends and family thought that life for the newlywed couple was perfect. Shortly after his wife's death, Raven Abaroa moved to Salt Lake City, Utah with their son. With the prime suspicion on the husband Raven Abaroa, the police began investigating the case in search of Janet's killer. There were a lot of reasons for police to suspect Abaroa of killing his wife, including a $500,000 life insurance policy and a suspiciously missing knife collection. But Raven also seemed to have an airtight alibi. A friend of his testified in support of Raven's claim of being at the soccer game. For 5 years, Abaroa evaded arrest on the basis of that alibi. In 2008, he remarried Vanessa Pond in Salt Lake City.
I think that my wife's not around because, she's a drug addict or she's crazy, but my wife actually died.
Did he say she was murdered?
He said that there was an intruder and that his wife was killed and that he'd found her. And he left it at that. And how mad he was after she died. Not how sad, not how heartbroken, just mad. And then he cuddled up closer to me And he said, "I promise I'll never hurt you."
Vanessa was a single mother whose daughter was in the same daycare program as Aberoa's son Caden. She found Raven upfront, honest and genuine, and admired the fact that he was a single father looking after his kids single-handedly. Soon, they decided to move in together. It was soon enough when Vanessa found out that she had been wrong with her opinion about Raven. She started seeing abrupt changes in the behavior of her new husband. As Vanessa got to know about his wife's death, she went online to find out more about the death of Janet Abaroa. He had his stories about how people were trying to frame him, about how horrible the cops were, and how he continued to try to contact the police to find out what's going on, stated Vanessa. 3 years after Janet Aberoa's death was still unsolved, Vanessa and Raven Aberoa were married in the backyard of her parents' home. When Janet Aberoa's sisters learned he was engaged, they said they felt they had to reach out to his new fiancée. "We just wanted her to make sure she was aware of the things that had been in the news about him, that she would know what she was getting into because we were fearful for her," said Janet's sister Dana Kendall. Not long after this, Pond said Raven Aberoa began acting in ways she didn't understand. She said that he would switch within moments and would utter the most horrible things, but the very next moment he would apologize. Vanessa Pond claimed that the outbursts had become very physical. "He grabbed me from the door and threw me up against the wall, and when I fell, he tried to convince me that I had tripped," said Vanessa. At this point in the story enters a new detective and the question of a missing contact lens, and these entries would give it a breakthrough twist. Just 4 months into Vanessa and Raven's marriage, Vanessa claimed that she feared for her safety. The couple separated and the marriage was annulled. Vanessa went public in spring 2009 with her fears that he killed his first wife. The Durham police assigned a new detective to Janet Aberoa's case, Detective Soul. Soul believed that Raven never kept his lies straight and that his initial statements to law enforcement were contradictory. Then, as he was reviewing the crime scene photos, Soul noticed something that stuck out to him as odd. He saw the contact lens case on the counter with the top off of it, indicating that the contacts were probably not in there, which would be contrary to her going to bed, as Raven claimed her to. This detail caught the eye of the detective, because from the interviews of Janet Aberoa's family and friends, he knew that Janet was consistent with removing her contacts before going to sleep. The detective said that he found this detail suspicious enough to go after Raven. For Soul, another evidence that hinted towards Raven's guilt was the fact that there was the absence of any disturbance based on the manner of her death, because a stabbing is not immediate and it's usually violent with struggle and disturbance. The detective managed to grab an arrest warrant for Raven, and he was arrested on February 1, 2010. He was charged with first-degree murder in the death of his first wife. In July 2010, Janet Aberoa's body was exhumed, and authorities determined that she had been wearing contacts when she was buried. Apparently, this evidence was crucial in determining a flaw in Raven Aberoa's story. It was not long after this when Raven Aberoa went on trial and faced his second wife in court. During his trial, which began in 2013, prosecutors presented Raven Aberoa as a controlling husband. Vanessa, who testified as a witness for the prosecution, detailed how she saw Raven Aberoa become violent on the soccer field and how his aggression turned on her. "When he sees weakness, he just comes at you harder and harder," Vanessa said in court. On the other hand, Raven's defense team argued that the prosecution's evidence against their client was mostly circumstantial and police had ignored evidence, including a bloody shoe print that they said could have pointed to a different killer. In May 2013, The jury failed to reach a verdict, deadlocking 11-1 on a guilty verdict, and the judge declared a mistrial. Before Raven Abereroa's second trial was supposed to begin in March 2014, he entered an Alford plea for voluntary manslaughter, acknowledging that there was evidence to convict him, but not admitting guilt. A judge sentenced him to between 95 and 123 months in jail, but he was granted credit for the 4 years he had spent behind bars before and during his trial, which was applied as time served. Raven Abereroa did not testify at his trial, but he spoke in court in 2014 after being sentenced. "I don't think it's worth risking the possibility of spending the rest of my life in prison for something I did not do. I take this plea to ensure that doesn't happen, and that's the only reason. I didn't kill my wife," said Raven Abereroa. He was 39 when he was released from prison on Christmas Day in 2017. He now lives in Utah while his second wife continues to go out in public, cautioning them about Raven. Vanessa said that her advice for other women who might meet Abereroa is to stay away from him. "I was shocked, but more than that, I was shocked at what the plea deal turned out to be. That's not justice at all. It's not justice," said Vanessa in a public interview. What do you guys think? Is Vanessa right on her claims about justice not being served? Was this really one of those where the law is manipulated to serve the culprit's purpose and the victim is left unjustified? Did Raven actually kill his wife? Also, what about those contact lenses? Were they real? Let us know in the comments. Number 2. This is the story of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, two best friends from a small town called Cambridgeshire, who went missing while they were out to buy sweets from a vending machine. And as the killer was revealed, the case of 10-year-old shocked the whole Britain nation because the abductor was found out to be one of the closest people to the best friends. On the evening of Sunday, August 4, 2002, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman went out to buy sweets in Soham, Cambridgeshire. That morning, Jessica left her home to attend a barbecue at Holly's house. Holly, Jessica, and a third friend named Natalie Parr played computer games and listened to music until Natalie left. The girls changed into matching Manchester United football kits in the afternoon, and Holly's mother took the last picture of them. At 6:15, they left the house without telling anyone to buy sweets from a vending machine at the local sports center. But the 10-year-olds never made it back home. At 8 p.m., Holly's mother noticed that despite being told to stay in the house, the kids had sneaked out of the house. She waited for them to be back home as soon as the vending machine wasn't far from the house. But the children didn't return and it got dark. She and a few of her friends went out in search of them, but to their disappointment, they couldn't find the kids in the neighborhood. Holly's mother reported the two friends missing at 9:55 p.m. Back then, they didn't know that the search for the kids would lead them to the worst-case scenario. The police started a massive search for the girls, and 400 police officers and hundreds of volunteers looked for them in Operation Fincham. They conducted house-to-house inquiries, and even the United States Air Force personnel stationed at nearby air bases helped in the search. As both girls were taught to be wary of strangers, the police thought that the kidnapper must be someone the Wells and Chapman family were acquainted with. On August 17, 2002, almost 2 weeks after the girls went missing, Keith Pryor, a gamekeeper in an irrigation ditch, discovered the girls' bodies in the ditch near the perimeter fence of RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk, about 10 miles east of Soham. Their bodies were found in an advanced state of decomposition as the killers had attempted to burn them. They were later identified correctly as Holly and Jessica by DNA testing. The authorities immediately began an investigation to catch their killer, and in their prime suspicion was their school caretaker Ian Huntley. After the girl's disappearance, Huntley, then 28 years of age, was among those to make media appeals for their safe return. He even told journalists that he was one of the last people to see them alive. The police began to get suspicious of Huntley after an officer searched his home on August 5. The officer noted that it had been thoroughly cleaned and clothing was on the washing line, despite it having rained during the past couple of days. An eyewitness also said that he saw Huntley and Carr, his girlfriend who worked as an assistant in the same school as him, peering into the boot of their car looking distressed, and that Carr had been weeping. In addition to this, Huntley had even asked a police officer about how long the DNA lasted. On August 16, 2002, a day before the girls' bodies were found, Huntley and Carr were questioned by the police. They were interrogated separately for approximately 7 hours. By that time, locals from his hometown of Grimsby had recognized him in the televised appearances as being linked to a sex attack on a woman. It later emerged that before moving to Cambridgeshire, he had previously been investigated for rape and sexual assault with underage girls. This is somebody that history has shown got away with lying for a long time and got away with being abusive for a long time, claimed the authorities. Jessica's mobile phone signal was last registered to a mast outside Huntley's house. Carr slipped up in the detail of the false alibi to police. She had actually been with her mother in Grimsby at the time of the girl's disappearance, and the girl's clothes were found partially burned and dumped in a bin at the school where Huntley worked. The bin had his fingerprints on it as well. It also emerged that Huntley's car had been cleaned, and all 4 tires were replaced the day after the murder. Huntley had also paid the mechanic to forge the date on the receipt to make it look like they were changed earlier. A forensic psychologist, Carrie Danes, claimed that Huntley had been planning this attack for some time. The authorities believe that Huntley was confident about not getting caught for his deeds. I think people who get away with that kind of behavior believe that they won't be caught, so they have a certain level of confidence when they tell their lies, stated one of the officials. Huntley and Carr were first questioned by the police and then later arrested on suspicion of abduction and murder. On December 17, 2003, Huntley was found guilty on 2 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 40 years. He is serving his sentence at HMP Frankland Prison in County Durham. Carr was charged with perverting the course of justice on August 21, 2002. On January 16, 2003, she was charged with 2 counts of assisting an offender. She pleaded guilty to the first charge and not guilty to the second. She was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison and was released on probation on May 14, 2004, after serving 21 months, which was half her sentence. She won an injunction on February 24, 2005, granting her lifelong anonymity on the grounds that her life would otherwise be in danger. In 2011, Carr gave birth to her first child with her new husband. The anonymity order extends to include the child so that he or she should never know their mother's previous identity. In both of these cases, the charged suspects involved in the crime were allowed to be free after paying a certain penalty for their crimes. But the question in both of these cases remain: is justice actually served when the criminals are freed on the basis of certain pleas? Or as some would say, justice is served when a criminal is given another chance to right his wrongs? Let us know your thoughts about this in the comments below. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more such unexpected cases.